Hi, my name is Katie Kataska, and I am the chair of the Professional Development Committee of the New Jersey State Library Association. In the Library Career Path series, we'll be interviewing librarians from a wide variety of positions within the field, from public positions to music outreach and even business librarians. So newcomers and seasoned librarians alike can learn more about the many career options available in the field that they may not have been aware of. We hope you enjoy these interviews, and please like and subscribe to our channel below to help promote the Library Career Path series. Thanks so much for watching this series. We hope you enjoy it. Take care. Okay, cool. So Hope, thank you for joining us today. So just to get started on our interview, so can you please tell us your name, title, and current place of employment?
Sure. So my name is Hope Holroyd. I'm the Public Relations and Marketing Coordinator at the Cherry Hill Public Library.
And so what inspired you to work in marketing and public relations? And how did you come to be in a library?
So that's a fun story. I started college as an education major, and I went to Rowan University. And there, when you're an education major, you have to have a double major at the time. I don't think it's like that anymore. So I was elementary education and American studies, and I went to my first day of student teaching, and I said, "Oh no." I went in the next day and changed my major to PR.
That was
Um,
fast.
yes, took one day, and it was a day, and it changed my life for the better, I would say. So PR and communications was always kind of my backup plan, even though it's what I always wanted to do. I just thought education, but it was not for me. So that led to me switching my major, and then my first internship was amazing. It was a book publicity intern. So I was doing all of the marketing materials for books that were getting ready to be published. And that was like blew my mind because I was like, wow, books. I love books. This is amazing. I can do this. Um, so then I had different professional experiences, and then I just happened to see the library posted that they were hiring. Didn't know what job it was, and then I saw it was a PR job, and I said, "Whoa, that's what I do." I've lived in Cherry Hill my whole life. This is the library I've always gone to. Um, we're celebrating 20 years of this building, which is
Nice.
fun to me because I remember the old building. I used to go to the old building when I was little. Um, so to be here and do the work to celebrate that, it's been really special and giving back to the community because I love my town. I've always loved living here, and I've always loved the library and been such an advocate for it with the people in my life. So taking on this role has been really special and wonderful.
Oh, that's so nice. You get to work in your hometown library.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
No, that's really
special.
cool.
Yeah.
So we sort of answered the third question of what pointed you in the direction of working in a public library. But is there anything in particular that have you always wanted to work in a library, or was that sort of like, if it happens, that's great?
Yeah, it kind of was when I had that first job doing book publicity. That's kind of where I was like, no matter what I do, I want to somehow be involved with books because I love reading. I've always been an avid reader, and that just completely opened my eyes to the whole world that goes into a book being published. Um, I think it's a really then unique perspective from a library having all the resources, not only just books. I feel like people think library and only think books, and there's so much more going on here than just books. And when I tell people, I didn't even know some of the things until I started working here, and I've lived here my whole life. So I being able to show how much there is in the community has been what I've loved to do. And, like my previous job, I was working at an office at Temple University, and I was helping format and edit textbooks, and that's something that I never thought I would be
Mhm.
doing. Um, but still somehow having like books in that role. And then when I saw this, I was like, well, that just makes sense. Of course I would
Mhm.
work at a library. That just makes sense for me. So I told everyone I got this job, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you would work at the library."
Yeah, just sometimes like the right job finds you because I never expected to be in libraries either. And then my dad was like, you should apply. And then it sort of just worked out. So sometimes the right job finds you, which I think it did in your case.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely just like the right time and happened to see it, and I was lucky to be offered the job, truly. I know a lot of people applied for it, so I'm very grateful.
No, that's great. And how long have you been at Cherry Hill now?
Almost a year. I'm coming. April will be a full year. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So then this should be at least be somewhat in the forefront of your mind because I don't even remember my interview because it was 8 years ago. But can you describe how the interview process was for your job?
Sure. So I sent in my application. If I was contacted fairly quickly. I found out I was the first person to apply, and I was
Aw.
like, "What? That's crazy." Um, but they liked my cover letter because I talked about having my old library card and um, so things like that. The interview itself, it was a couple weeks because I came in once. It was just the director and the chief of operations who I spoke with. Um, so I spoke to them for, a half hour, whatever it was. And then I was brought back for a second interview with a member of the board. Um, and then Jasmine, our team librarian, we went to school together. So she came
Aw.
down. Yeah, she came down and because she runs so much for the teen social media, we work together a lot. So they wanted to, see her thoughts on who they would want to hire and things like that. Um, that was kind of a stressful thing. Not really knowing the board member who was brought in, she's wonderful. I work closely with her as well. She worked in PR for years. That was her career.
Hmm.
She worked in Cherry Hill Township. She's great. So that was a little nerve-wracking though, because they were like, she's a professional. And I like, even though I'm well into my career, I always think like I'm new at this, even though, like I know what I'm doing, but I still feel kind of like a new fish, especially in library world where I've never been before. So after that though, it was very, very quick. I was offered the job and it's okay. Yeah.
Yay. And the rest was history.
Yes. Yes.
No, I understand how you feel. I feel like no matter how long I've been in the library field, I'm still like I'm always learning something new. So I don't really feel like that feeling ever changes. So
Yeah, I
just
mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
yeah.
It keeps you on your toes and it keeps
Mhm.
every day interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm just curious. So in during the interview process, is there a particular asset or a qualification that you feel may have helped you land your position? Otherwise, that you're a Cherry Hill long-term resident? Did you feel like anything sort of endeared them to you?
I will say part of my interview was, oh, so you grew up here, so you get it. Like that was the
I
statement.
hope they phrased it like that.
Literally like, oh, so you grew up here, so you get it. And I was like, yeah. Like, and that just made sense to me that that would be brought up. Um, I would say my previous role gave me a lot of the experience that
Yeah.
this job requires. Things like running a newsletter, helping uh, organize and post things on the website, definitely social media. I'm on social media all day. Um, so I think, combined with having grown up here and then also the knowledge that I brought and I think I've brought some new ideas with it as well. I think I was very lucky to come in and they kind of were like, do what you think. Um, you are the PR
Mhm.
person, like you have more knowledge. We are librarians, so we trust you. And I think that was really helpful coming into this role, um,
Mhm.
because they know library world so well, and I know PR. So it's kind of been a great collaboration between everyone
Mhm.
who I've worked with. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that now that libraries have progressed so far, that we are actually hiring people from different professions to work here. Because we
Mhm.
also have someone like you at our job who does the social media and posters and things. But I never thought we would have someone she worked for a newspaper before and now doing our social media. It's really interesting to see like sort of the careers intersect.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's so much growth for that as well. I think like I've talked with people before on staff. I think social workers should be a regular funded staff members for libraries. I think there's so much that you do within the community that, we can only do so much. We're all trained in our own individual fields,
Mhm.
especially as you bring more people in. And, librarians are very knowledgeable. I think, people don't realize how much knowledge they have. But, they can only do so much too. So I think like the more like this series is wonderful because you can show how things are growing and how they need to continue to grow, to provide the community everything that they can get. Because I mean, like taxes and all that are all part of it. And it's just, I understand that, but I think it's just the more you can give for your community, the more they'll give back to you.
Mhm.
So they'll come to these things, they'll come reach out for help, all of those things. So yeah, I think it's really fun. I would love to not be the only one. I would love if we could hire someone else or, get a part-time person who's also doing this. Because there's so much we can be doing on top of what we already do, which is crazy that we could be doing more, but it's a good thing to
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, yeah. I know you and me talked a little bit about before the video began, but yeah, there's always like, you always want to do a lot of things, and unfortunately, there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
There's so much I would love to do, but you can only do so much.
Mhm, mhm. And that's where it's like if all libraries see the need for these like niche positions, then
Mhm.
you have part-time librarians, have a part-time social media person, and finding those holes for yourself and filling them, I think is beneficial to everyone and will only make your library more successful.
hmm And I think you also understand the need, I'm sure every librarian and library worker does, that getting the word out has been so hard. And that's why I think like your position is sort of crucial because you know sort of how to market that to the outside. Whereas librarians, I feel like, oh, have had a little trouble doing so. At least I know I have. I can't speak for everybody else, but
I mean, it's something that I struggle with too.
yeah.
There's so like social media is a beast in itself. Like you can have someone just do social media and then have
hmm
someone who's doing PR and marketing. Um, though like they really can be two separate roles. They should be two separate roles. I think
hmm
everyone should invest in just a social media person because that's just the way of the world now. Um, one thing with that is like knowing what I know and how communications and marketing works. One of the hard things that when I came in, I struggled with because I kind of was thrown in and um, given free reign, but then also like librarians were like, I have a program next week that needs to be posted about today. And I was like, well, that's not how social media strategy
Yeah.
works. Like posting about a program multiple times a month, like that's just not social media work. And I want to help you promote your program. I will help you promote your program, but I'm not just going to keep posting about it on Instagram. That's not how it works.
Yeah. No, I understand there's always that re-education process with like, hey, this is how it should be run. And some
Yeah.
people are just like, but I need it now.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely been um it's definitely been explaining that a few times. Everyone was very receptive once I showed them how, like,
Mhm.
hey, I started in April. Here was the social media engagement rate, and here it was in December. And, I know what I'm doing because everything went up.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm happy to help you promote your programs. We gotta just work together in a different way. And I'm lucky that people know once they have things scheduled to just tell me right away,
hmm
because that's what I've told them is just the easiest for me. I will pay attention to dates and I will move things around as they need to. Um, but as long as you tell me when a program's happening as much in advance as you can, I will help promote it for as long as I can and come up with different ways of doing it, whether it's just a social media post on Facebook. And that's something that, you know, was difficult for people to understand is like, no, we're not just going to keep posting the same thing everywhere because that also doesn't work. Why would we post it on Instagram when it gets quite literally zero engagement? Like
Mhm.
nobody's even scrolling past it. Um, so kind of reshaping how like certain programs are now only promoted on Facebook because we know that audience are the people who always come to those programs. That's just how it works. We're not going to post about it because our demographics work differently. So once I explained that to everyone, it's been a very easy process of, getting those things. But then at the same time, it's like we can't just talk about our programs all the time because that's not what social media is
Yeah.
either. Like we have to talk about just the resources the library provides and the people at the library too. Like that was something where I was like, Instagram, TikTok, like these are great examples of platforms that are people centered and like picture focused and like video content, things like that. And when we do them, they perform really well. And then we don't do them for a very long time. And then everyone's like, are we going to do that again? When are we going to do that again? Um, so it's saying like showing people this is what works and
Mhm.
we keep doing, but we instead of always posting on social media, we'll do individual emails instead because we have the people who are on those email lists who want to be notified of those programs anyway. So we'll reach them that way instead of bombarding them on their feeds that are already so cluttered too. That's the thing. It's like getting through the void of all of the messaging that you see all day.
Yeah, because you have to have a nice balance between like the fun and then the educational parts of things and the advertising. So I understand that because we try to do that as well. And it's always I feel like it's a little bit of a hard balance.
Yeah, and I think it's just, coming up with what works for your library. I started doing like a weekly post that's here's everything, and instead of always having individual posts for specific programs, it's like, well, we do post about it. Here's everything going on this
Hmm.
week. And if you didn't look at that, I don't know what to tell you because I
Yeah,
did post about it. Um, so, and
yeah.
that's working with like we have a longtime person who helps volunteer with computer classes, and he was like, "You should be posting about computer classes every day." And I said, "I would love to, but
Hmm.
I won't be doing that.
Yeah.
'Cause I can't do that because we have just too many other things going on too." And that's where, but I took that and I said, "Okay, we can be promoting our tech classes more than we do. How do we do that without making an individual post? We'll integrate it into a weekly post, and that's how we'll
Hmm.
let people know about them that way." And I think it has helped. I think it's just hearing those things and saying, okay, what can we be doing just a little differently? Let's just try this and see if it works. And if it doesn't stick, hey, we tried. We can always hide the post. It's not that big of a deal. It's just social media.
Hmm.
Um, so I think like taking that pressure off too and saying like it is just social media. If it if it doesn't get a lot of likes, it doesn't get a lot of likes. You
Yeah.
tried.
Hey, that's sometimes the battle is just trying new things.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, it sort of goes into our next question then, because I know there's no such thing as a typical work day, but is there any sort of thing that is a typical work day for you in your position? Just curious about your more day-to-day operations.
Yeah, so we do a morning circle every morning where we talk about all the programs happening that day, anything like that happened the night before or things to keep an eye out coming up later in the week. Once we're done that, then I go and see what flyers for programs are kind of running low because we have multiple places in the library where we advertise our specific programs. We have a monthly calendar. Those always run low every day. So kind of replenishing those to make sure people can continue to grab them. Um, so I do that, and then it's kind of like whatever I need to do that day. Sometimes it's editing the newsletter or building another email. I mentioned before, this 20 years of the building. We're like knee deep in getting ready. National Library Week is when we're gonna do a lot of special programming and We have special merchandise and all this like really exciting stuff. We're going to be doing specific social media content. So it's like scheduling all those videos, having time to edit those. That's been kind of a bulk of my time within the past like month has been a lot of that work. Um, but again, it's just, more program flyers, coming up with, oh, do you remember this program's happening? Oh yeah, it is. Like perfect example. We just did in December, we started a um donation drive for prom attire for our
Oh, I
team.
saw that.
Yeah, so it's really cool. We have a sustainability committee that's really been focusing on just because we know our community is so generous with each other.
Hmm.
Um, we did a Halloween costume swap. We did a all ages winter coat swap. And then this was the brainchild of a couple people in children's department and our teen librarian of formal wear for all the upcoming
Hmm.
dances and things. We have hundreds of dresses that were donated. People were so kind.
Aw.
And people can just come take them for free. That's the
Hmm.
whole point. You give them for free, people take them for free. Um, and it was coming up last week, and it was I just said, "Hey, are we like, do we know that the teens know? Like, do they know? Do we know that they know? Because
Yeah.
this is great. Like, if I knew that this was happening when I was a teenager, I would have been here." Um,
This would be great when I was a teenager.
Yeah, it would. My mom would have been thrilled. I'm one of
Yeah.
four, so she would have been like, "Yep, we're going to the library. You're just gonna get your dress there." And
But
it's
that's definitely just something that makes it so unique. Like we never thought about that. I've seen libraries have guitars and seeds, and you never know.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the thing where then our teen librarian said, "Can you help me make sure I'm reaching all the schools?" And so I reached out to the schools, and then I was like, "We need to tell the media about this." So I quickly put together
Yeah.
something and sent it out, and we did have Fox 29 come out and
Hmm.
film and feature us, which was
Aw.
great. That doesn't always happen, Those
Hmm.
are a dime a dozen for every uh it's we're lucky when it happens. I keep the media informed about things, but there's so much going on everywhere that
Yeah.
there's only so much that they could come to. But like special things like that, it's been wonderful to see those things highlighted. And like it took me 2 seconds to put that together to get it out. Um, so finding unique ways that way.
Hmm.
Uh, I hope.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I genuinely don't remember what the question was. That's what I was gonna say. I don't know if
It was a
you...
what is a typical workday like
Oh
for you?
yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, that shows you how everything's just going
Well,
on.
no day is typical, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's just yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes.
yeah. So someone will call and say, "Oh, this is oh, okay, we'll come. I'll come deal with that." Or yeah, I'll come talk to you. Let's figure out what we want to do. And then it's also like we're trying to be more mindful about accessibility and things like that. So it's like what unique things can we do there? So like we have uh like the genre types that we're going to be putting on
Mhm.
our shelves. And it was, Hope, do you know how to do that? And I was like, we have a Cricut, right? I'll figure it out. So then
Mhm.
it was figuring out how to cut out individual letters. So it's like literally could just be like, do you know how to do that? Because I don't know how to do that. Can you figure out how to do that? And but we all do that with each other, so
Yeah.
it's great.
That just sounds like a lot of on the fly work sometimes, but hey, that's sometimes how it works.
Yeah, yeah, and when there's time, for those things where it's like, hey, we kind of want to do this like relatively quickly. Do you have the time? It's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
I can carve out the time here and there, and then, I need to go back to this stuff, with everything
Yeah,
that's going on.
I know there's always something going on. Yeah, I was just curious also, you said when you made like a request to the media, is that usually just you call them or how does that work?
So from what I usually do, there's a thing called a media alert. It's a very simple template. I can share it with you.
Mhm.
It's literally just like who, what, where, when, why is what you put on the side. So you put the date, the time, what the event is, where it's going to be, why you're doing it. And you can just send that to like all of these news outlets have just pitch emails where you can
Mhm.
send press releases, you can send
Oh,
news
okay.
clips. So I send that, and then sometimes, depending on the program, I'll follow up and call and say, "Hey, I sent you this like on this day.
Mhm.
Not sure if you got it. Just wanted to make sure you did in case you want to consider it for your lineup."
Mhm.
That's for like the news stations. Otherwise, like with local journalists and stuff, I just email back and forth with them. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because I there's a couple who like we have a couple of local like we have a small magazine called Cherry Hill Neighbors. I work with them monthly and I send them like, hey, here's all the programs we have coming up. Pick and choose what you want to put on your calendar. Like these are the ones we definitely want. But otherwise, here's just kind of everything that's going on. And then we have the Cherry Hill Sun, which is the local news. And I have the reporter that I just go back and forth with different things too. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's cool. Definitely, it sounds like you have a very varied schedule, so that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So this is going a little bit back to one of our previous questions, but so I'm just curious, what skills and qualifications are required for your position, and do you feel that they match the skills and qualifications that you use most on a daily basis?
Yeah, I definitely would say that they match. Um a lot of the job description for this coordinator position was preparing communications materials like press releases, media alerts, emails, content for social media, so being able to design it and come up with it. We use Canva. I'm pretty sure everyone uses Canva. I have been since before I even started, I was like, can I get Adobe?
Mm-hmm.
I will die on this hill. I love Adobe. Um, so if you can get Adobe,
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend it. I want to get Adobe. Um, just because Canva is wonderful and but when you have the knowledge set in Adobe as
Mm-hmm.
well, there's so much you can do. And Canva is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I use it all the time to come up with like, I'll take a design idea and then make it what I need it to. Um, so I always use those things as a guide and as a start. But there are certain things that Adobe can do that Canva can't. Um, um,
Yeah, no, I use Photoshop, so I get that.
yeah. Um, so I help organize the website. We use Constant Contact and um, there's a bunch of different things of that, but that is something that like across the board, people in my position have to know how to use those email
Mm-hmm.
platforms. So I work with the director and the board and the friends for fundraising and sponsorship and different things there. We do have a part-time fundraising and volunteer coordinator. So it's not always like the
Mm-hmm.
main focus of what I'm doing, but I step in and help her when I can. And like with the 20-year stuff, I've been doing a lot of the bigger things there. Um, yeah, I think that's most of what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds like a lot of like technology knowledge, which makes sense for your position in communication, so you could market appropriately, which makes sense.
Yeah, I will say one of the things that I was able to get that didn't exist. Constant contact is helpful because you can schedule social media posts
Hmm.
on some outlets. I was able to get Hootsuite purchased, so we
Hmm.
those. So I highly recommend a social media management tool like that. That's just the one that I had the
Hmm.
most knowledge in, so I was like, I prefer to use this. But whatever, you know, whatever you can, it's so helpful for scheduling. And we have all of our social media platforms on there. It tracks all our analytics for us, so I can look monthly and say, okay, what post did the best? What post got the least engagement? How can we adjust this moving forward with what we have to promote? And then should we pivot? What should we be doing more of? Um, so it's definitely been like that. If you can't get a PR person, invest in a social media management tool because it's, less expensive than a whole salary, but it's so worth it. It's so worth every penny that you spend on it.
Yeah, no, my library uses Hootsuite, and I will say it's invaluable.
Yeah, it's so helpful. And then they have the webinars that you can go on that you can see what else is going on in different industries and the trends on social media in general. And I feel like we're overdue for a webinar. I don't know how you feel. I would love to know what other communications people are, how they're
Yeah.
dealing with all the changes that's in, TikTok was banned, but then it wasn't. And then we have all these new ones popping up, and where are we going? What are we doing? Because so much of social media isn't just like, oh, you have to be on everything to be on everything. It's like what aligns with your mission and what you're trying to
Mhm.
accomplish. Um, so as everything keeps changing, it's like I would love for them, you
I
know,
know. To like let you know what's
yeah,
good and what's trending. Yeah, I
what are we
understand.
doing? What are we doing, friends? That's just what I
I
wanted.
know because it changes so much.
It does. It does.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. No, I understand that. Um, so I'm really curious though what you have to say about this next question because this is one of my favorite questions of the interview. So I'm just curious. So, what is the best thing about your job, and what is your least favorite thing?
um, the best has been every time I'm able to collaborate with everyone on staff and do like really fun social media things. So our Gen Z Write the Scripts video, that's like
Mhm.
probably one of the best days of work I've ever had in my life. It was so fun. And they were having so much fun too. That's like the whole time we were just, oh, this is such a fun way to spend the morning. I'm like, let's do this every day. I would do this every day if I could. Um, but trade off with that is that it
Yeah.
literally took half the day to then edit that video and
Yeah,
all
and then
the
you said it
time.
also took like 2 months to like formally plan it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, hey, have you heard about this idea? And I said,
Mhm.
yeah. What if we did it? Okay, well, we can't do it without tiny microphones, so we have to get tiny
Yeah.
microphones, and then we have to put it in purchase order, and then so it's like everything that's going on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
um,
Takes a lot of time.
and then sitting and editing it, and so I think like that is like hand in hand. What my least favorite part is too is that I don't have enough time to do that kind of stuff every day, and because it is so much fun. Um, we've done a few different things since then. Um, and um, so like combined with working everyone to make those like social media things really well, it's been really rewarding the times that we have been featured on the news and things like that. Um, so being able to see like when the whole library is featured
Mm.
and things like that, where it's not just, that's been, that's been really nice.
Yeah.
My least favorite is, yeah, just not having enough time to do the fun stuff all day. Because, I mean, that's
Mhm.
what everyone wants to do. Um, but yeah. Yeah.
No, I get that entirely. It's something that we all have to go through, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's where it's like, let's hire more part-time or come up with another
I
way.
know. So we could do more with the fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean it does what it's supposed to.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So I'm just curious. So what advice do you have for those considering working at a library?
Um,
Like whether they come from your background or someone who's going into the library field as a librarian.
I would say figure out as much as you can before, like, obviously I knew about the library before I interviewed,
Mm.
and I had a lot of like they knew me because I made a lot of purchase requests, and they knew that
Hmm.
like I was an avid library user, but I wasn't even fully aware of everything that goes on here. So like know as much as you can going into it. It only helps you with everything that's going on because like I didn't fully understand how everything is. Like so many departments are doing so many things. They have their own meetings, they have everything, and then they also have to come back. And then there's the sustainability committee, and then
Mhm.
there's, I have my committee for the 20-year stuff, and there's all these like other things that pop up, and then it's the friends and the board, and you're really stepping into a lot, which is wonderful, but
Mhm.
having a full understanding of as much as you can before you come into it is my advice, because I knew of all these things, but I didn't know how much was going on.
Mhm.
So that's my advice.
No, that's good advice. Yeah, you never know how many like sub departments people have until you really work there.
Yeah, yeah. So like I know that's not necessarily like always readily available on
Mhm.
a website or things like that, but like if you know you want to work in a library, honestly, like go talk to people who work in a library. They will
Mhm.
tell you what it's like to work there. Talk to people at CERC, talk to a librarian. If you have like tech services people who are willing to talk to you, that's a
Mm.
whole thing I was completely unaware of was tech services. And I
Yeah.
think nobody really thinks about that. So if you can talk to those people, and everyone I would know would be willing to talk to anyone who was interested in working in a library. So talk to a person and see what it's like for them. Because you just never know what that'll, and so many people in library will know each other. So it's like you tell someone and oh, I know over here is hiring, or I know over here, or I know this person at the school that can help you. If you're trying to go to library school, like there's so many, everyone's willing to help each other, truly.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and the good thing about librarians is they're very willing to tell you information.
mhm.
So if they don't know, they'll usually know who to forward you to. Because how I met you was I was forwarded to you through Jasmine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just everybody wants to help everyone. That's one thing that I really love about working here. And when I was going to college, the thing that I said to my counselor was, I want to help people. And so that naturally went to, oh, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And
Hmm.
then it turned into when I came and I went back to my high school and I said, I think I'm going to change my major to PR. And he was like, oh, you want to get into like all, and I said, you can still help people
Yeah.
and people. There's so many unique ways and things that, public relations and marketing do. Um, that truly just help. And I think that's the whole purpose of my role, is to just kind of make sure people know and amplify what's already going on. Um, so yeah, everyone's always willing to help anyone. Yeah, my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely for sure, especially in a library setting.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, since your position is sort of a rather unique position. So what are the job prospects like for your position? Have you noticed a lot of PR people being hired for libraries now? I definitely think that is the trend, but I'm just curious what you think since you do come from this background.
Yeah, I do think it is something that, libraries are prioritizing, which I think is wonderful. I think everyone should, for your own sakes, and uh I just think it's an invaluable position. I will say, like, throwing the word marketing into a job title always is like,
Mhm.
it always changes the game. Um, because so I know Rowan well, so I can speak to that. Public relations and advertising are housed in the College of Communication. Marketing is housed in the business college. So
Mm.
like there are, many different hats that these job titles can have. But really matching and making sure that, your education and your experience match what the job actually is, I think is one of the biggest challenges, because it might say public relations or communications, but it really is marketing focused. And marketing is different than advertising. Um, that's much more of the business side. Um, some of it, when marketing's thrown in, is like it's a sales job, and you don't realize it's a sales job until you keep
Mm.
reading through everything. Um, so I think that in the communications world itself that is just unfortunately the nature of the field. And it's something that you just have to take the responsibility of sifting through yourself. And then it is when you find the right opportunity, everything comes together. Um, I will say, starting out in my career uh, was very difficult. It's not something that I just, graduated and found a job right away. I think it is
Mhm.
one of those fields where pretty much everyone struggles unless you have an internship that you know is leading to a job.
Mhm.
That doesn't always happen. None of mine were guaranteed to lead to
Mhm.
jobs. Um, and like I went to grad school, so that changed how, what my plan was initially. Um, so I think it looks different for so many people. Um, a lot of people, like I had friends in school who knew they wanted to do advertising, so they went right into the role and they've moved up since then, which is
Mhm.
great. But being in the PR side was more difficult getting that first position. Um, but once like you just got to keep going and you have to keep trying because everyone's capable, everyone can do it. And then kind of like with that, I think one of the things is like recognizing your own weaknesses was
Mhm.
something that was a struggle for me, but then once I figured it out, like I realized my resume was so PR focused and like I had so much traditional communications, like press releases, all of those. I had so much of that and like no social media experience. And every time I would apply for a job, they'd be like, okay, what's your experience with this? And I could say, I've worked with it, but not heavily. So I found, I worked with a nonprofit for a few years just volunteering for free, helping run their social media because I lacked that experience. So it's
Mhm.
like recognizing your own weaknesses and then building your resume from that is like one of the I try to tell anytime I can tell people that I'm like, okay, what's the hole that you see that will just help you the next time you interview? Um, so I think yeah, big can of worms, but it's
Mhm.
wonderful working in this field.
Oh no, that's great. But yeah, there's always something I feel like a niche you need to fill, you know. There's always something. But there's what's nice about it is there's always something new to learn. I think that's
Mhm.
also been the great thing.
Yeah, and I wouldn't know a lot of what I know in terms of like social media management. That was the first time I did that working with that nonprofit.
Mhm.
Um, and it's been amazing to, I don't work with them anymore, but they've continued to flourish their social media. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh, look at you guys. This is so good. Like I'm just so happy that it's been
Mhm.
able to continue. And, they figured out their voice and what works for them posting and things like that. So it's like when you can be a small part of that and then talk about it later and see how it
Mhm.
continues, that's also, wonderful when that happens.
Mhm. Yeah, and it only helped you grow in this position as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it only helped with everything I've been doing since then. So it's not always fun when you have to volunteer and not take the paying. Like I completely understand that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but it is, it's the trade-off of it. It's helped me so much later in my
Yeah.
career. So yeah.
That definitely makes sense. And I know we talked a little bit about this, but if you have anything to expand on it, so what have you found has been the biggest challenge in this profession? I know time we mentioned, but do you feel like there's been any sort of bigger hurdle you've had to sort of surpass to make your vision occur or allow some re-education to be understood?
I think because of all of the different departments and things, I think myself coming in, there was the person who had the job before me was here for a very long time.
Hmm.
Um, and I think like the friends in particular, like that was a hurdle that I wasn't necessarily ready for. Um, the friends, they're wonderful. I love working with them. Like we do is collaborate. There's nothing bad there.
Hmm.
But it's just something that I was working fully remote for 2, 3 years. And
Mm-hmm.
then I came into this role that was every day in person, which is what I wanted. I wanted that shift for myself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but coming into that and then also being thrown into this like, oh, it's also these other people and it's also these other people. And it's also, it was so much at once
Yeah.
that I was very overwhelmed in the beginning. And I was very much just like, okay, okay, I gotta come in, I gotta do this. I gotta come in and gotta do this. Because I was still wrapping my head around everything. Um, so I think that was coming into it something I wasn't fully ready for. And that's why my advice is like know as much as you can coming
Mm-hmm.
into a library because there's so many more moving parts than you realize. Um, so the more you can know beforehand, the better for you. But again, it's all good. There's nothing bad. It's all wonderful when you collaborate within every facet of the library. So, um, yeah, that's what I would say was the biggest challenge.
No, that's great. And just sort of as to wrap up for our last question, so I just want to preface it before, if you guys haven't actually, for those watching, if you haven't seen Cherry Hill's social media, they have great, hilarious videos, so I highly recommend you check them out. I will list them in the description below. But I'm just curious, so are there any accomplishments during your career so far that you are particularly proud of?
Yeah,
Besides your great videos, because I do love your videos.
the problem, I mean, the Gen Z video, it really, I've talked about it a couple times, but like, there's just been nothing like that. Um,
Well, the guy you had do it was great.
yeah, Kip and Bob, they're
Yeah.
legends. I want to be like them when I grow up. They're just amazing. And that just turned into like this beautiful thing. Like then media was caught and there I was seeing people who were doing like their own TikTok tours of the library and being like, I live 20 minutes from here and I never even knew it was here. And I'm like, we're a giant building. How have you missed this whole time? But it is just you blend in and people don't always know.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that um, uh, the first couple months into my role, so I work here. My best friend is the instrumental director at our old high school,
Mhm.
and we had the jazz group come and perform, and that was the first time that 6ABC came, and we lost
Mhm.
our minds. We were like, look at us in our adult roles in our town. We're both here. We're gonna be on the news. This is crazy. Like what? That was like personally, that was such a like wow, like we're
Mhm.
really, crushing adulthood here. Um as well. That I was really proud of that. Uh, I can't think of anything else right now, but I'm really proud of those two things.
No, it's good. There's definitely always something to be proud of.
Yeah, and there's so much that we're doing for the 20-year stuff that just like isn't fully there,
Mhm.
and I'm so proud of it. Like we've come up with special totes, and we have pins, and we have uh like really great giveaways that
Mhm.
um again, I carved out a lot of time to help hand make these things, just so they're done. Um, so coming up with those ideas and seeing them, like it's been months in the making to make this happen. So I'm really proud of everything we're doing for this. And, we're going to keep it going through summer reading kickoff. Like it's not like we're just doing it this one week and then that's it for the year. So continuing those plans and seeing like what else we can do to incorporate and make sure people know like 20 years, this is a big deal. This is like it was a big deal for this building to be built, and it's a big deal to see how much it's changed over the years. And being a part of showing people all of that has been really rewarding too.